Welcome to this edition of the Click and Pledges Fundraising Command Center podcast, where we talk the why, the what, and the how in the Click and Pledges ecosystem.
And we are back. Today, it's all about the why. We're going to peel back some of those technical layers and really focus on the strategy, the philosophy that can turn a standard online event into something much more powerful.
Okay, let's unpack this. We actually touched on the tech side of this back in episode 16, titled Givent Online Meeting Fundraising.
That's right.
So if you listen to that deep dive, you already know what let's call it, the hardware looks like. We covered the integrations, the interface, all the mechanics.
Exactly. Episode 16 was the anatomy lesson. We laid out the technical side of having a fundraising app that works right inside your meeting, whether you're using Zoom or Teams.
But today is different.
Very different. Today, we're setting the tool itself aside for a moment to look at the strategy that makes it sing. We're moving from, the engineering of how the tool works
to the psychology of why it works.
That's it.
So the mission for this deep dive is to give you, our listener, a kind of ready-made strategic framework for your next virtual fundraiser.
And that framework, it really starts by identifying the single biggest enemy of emotional giving in a virtual space.
Which you call Digitality.
Digitality.
It sounds a little like a sci-fi villain. What exactly are we fighting here?
Well, think about that classic moment, the one we've all experienced at a virtual event. The speaker hits this emotional peak. They've told the story. They've shown the need. And then what do?
They drop a link in the chat. The dreaded link drop.
The dreaded link drop. And the donor, who is sitting there feeling inspired, now has to completely pivot. They have to see the link, click the link.
Which pulls them out of the meeting into a whole separate browser window.
And suddenly they're staring at a payment page. The momentum is gone. That friction, that sterile corporate distance that just killed the vibe. We suggest you view that as digitality.
It's the pause between the inspiration and the action.
It is. And what's fascinating is the psychological toll of that shift. Even if the donor fully intends to give, the second they leave that meeting, they're back in their own world. Notifications, other tabs, emails.
The urgency just evaporates. It's replaced by a technical task.
And that drop-off is huge. We suggest digitality is responsible for a massive chunk of lost conversions in virtual fundraising.
Okay, so if digitality is the force pulling the donor out of the moment, then the strategic antidote has to be total immersion.
Precisely. And immersion is the core design philosophy we built into Givent, and it really must be the core philosophy of your event strategy.
So what does that look like for the donor? Strategically, what changes?
It means the tool operates as an integrated app right inside the meeting. There is no exit ramp.
So the donor can actually make their donation while the presentation is still happening?
Yes. Their focus never leaves the speaker. They maintain that human connection, that humanity, while the mechanics of the gift are handled in a side panel right inside the meeting frame.
You're preserving the emotional curve.
We're keeping the heart and the wallet connected in real time.
We often talk about the omnipresence of the tool. It's not a pop-up, which feels like an interruption you have to deal with.
Right. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's always present, sitting quietly, ready for the moment the speaker makes the ask. And that strategic omnipresence lets you maximize the peak emotional moment. The tool is just waiting to capture that impulse.
It turns motivation into monetization instantly.
It's the absolute antithesis of digitality.
That makes perfect sense. So the hardware, Givent, eliminates the technical distance, but you still have the problem of, sterile corporate content. If the event itself feels like a lecture, immersion can't save it.
Exactly, which is why you need a complete philosophical shift to match the tech. And that brings us to the concept we recommend. The unmuted.
Yeah, unmuted.
It's the strategy for the content side. If digitality creates distance, the unmuted creates intimacy. It's all about transparency and authenticity.
You talk about moving away from charades in the dark. What does that mean? What's an example of that mistake?
Charades in the dark is that feeling of overly scripted perfection. Is that glossy, heavily edited annual report video that smooths over every single problem.
The one that implies the organization has it all figured out and they just need a check to keep the flawless machine running.
Yes. It positions the donor as a passive patron, not a partner. The unmuted philosophy suggests you do the opposite. We recommend you show the raw reality of the mission.
So instead of the glossy video,
maybe it's a monthly unscripted camera-on briefing, the CEO, a field manager, someone talking frankly about the challenges they're facing right now. We suggest inviting the audience into the complexity.
Okay, but I have to push back on that a little. Doesn't showing the struggle, admitting you've hit a hurdle, doesn't that make the organization look weak? Isn't that a huge risk for donor trust?
That is the crucial question, and it's the pivot. We believe that in today's world, donors are sophisticated. They know real-world work is messy.
So pretending it's perfect feels inauthentic.
It alienates them. But showing strategic vulnerability, saying, look, we are stuck on this specific problem, and we need your expertise and your resources to solve it. That doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look human. It makes you trustworthy.
The vulnerability is actually a trust builder. You're inviting them to collaborate on the obstacle itself.
It's a powerful shift. And that transparency, fueled by the immersive Givent environment, it transitions immediately into action through gamification.
Because the donor never leaves the room.
They're right there.
Yeah.
So we can turn that collaborative struggle into a visible, real-time collective effort.
And this is where we get into the idea of gamification. We've actually rebranded the fundraising meter itself. It's not just about money anymore.
We recommend rebranding it as a signal strength gauge.
A signal strength gauge.
Yeah, it's a deliberate shift. The metaphor is immediate. If the project is stalled, you show low signal. The goal isn't just to raise money, it's to work together to achieve high signal.
That puts immediate, visible stakes on the screen. It's about restoring communications or stabilizing the mission.
And because of the immersive tool, everyone in the meeting sees the stream of donations coming in live. They watch that signal strength bar move toward the target as it's happening.
It creates a shared reality that you just can't get from clicking a link. It turns a solitary act
into a multiplayer co-op game. We call it first-person philanthropy.
And people can boost the signal live.
That's the key mechanism. They can use our feature, the Intel Booster. So imagine the dynamic. A big gift comes in, the signal jumps, everyone gets excited. Then someone else uses the Intel Booster to push it even higher.
It encourages that pure participation, sort of communal push.
Exactly. It leverages the power of immediate feedback. In video games, that instant gratification loop is what keeps people engaged. We're just harnessing that same mechanic for collective good.
You're not just giving money, you're collaborating to solve a visible problem together in real time.
And that feeling, that sense of solving it together, that leads us to the deeper psychological anchor for this whole strategy.
The Benjamin Franklin effect.
The Benjamin Franklin effect.
Yeah. I think most people know the basic idea. You ask someone for a small favor, and it builds trust and makes them like you more. But how do you apply that here?
You apply it by completely redefining the power dynamic. With the unmuted strategy, we suggest the nonprofit stops acting like the all-knowing expert who just needs financing.
And instead, they become a founders council. A convener.
Precisely. The Franklin effect is activated when you ask for advice, not just money. So the dialogue shifts. Instead of saying, we solve problem A, now fund problem B, you say,
we are stuck on this problem. What would you, our Founders Council, recommend we do?
Yes. You position their insight, their experience, their support as a strategic necessity, not just charity. And when the donor gives that advice and then backs it up with funding through Givent, they are no longer just a bank.
They become the hero of the story.
And the nonprofit is just the guide, facilitating the hero's journey. It completely redefines the relationship long-term.
And that active involvement, fueled by the immersion of the tool and the transparency of the strategy, it creates a sense of ownership that a simple link in a chat box could never, ever achieve.
You are transforming a sterile online transaction back into a communal, immediate human interaction. The whole point is to use this integrated technology to eliminate digitality and maximize humanity.
And that really is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eliminating the friction between the inspiration in the heart and the action in the wallet. Moving from give us money because we're capable to help us solve this because you are powerful and we need you.
That is the unmuted philosophy in a nutshell.
And now for you, the listener, if you want the full technical breakdown, the how we absolutely recommend going back to listen to episode 16. But if you want to see this strategy, this idea of immersion and the unmuted, if you want to see the signal strength gauge in action, you need to contact the team for a demo right now.
Seeing Givent working inside a live meeting, that's really the only way to fully grasp the strategic advantage.
And here's a crucial reminder.
This is so important.
Givent is a free app inside our command center. You already have it, and you may not be using it to its full potential. You have the hardware, now you have the philosophy.
Go use it.
So the central question for you to mull over before your next virtual event is this. How much digitality are you willing to sacrifice for genuine humanity and for strategic partnership? That decision right there will define your fundraising success.
A powerful thought to end on.
For more information about this and all Click and Pledge products, make sure to visit clickandpledge.com and request for a one-on-one training or demo, whether you are a client or curious about our platform. Just ask us and we will gladly get together with you to chat. And don't forget to subscribe to this deep dive to stay up to date with all the latest and greatest features of the Click and Pledge Fundraising Command Center.